So you guys know well, I'll tell you again the story of the nacho cheese, in case you forgot. So this, they were down in this poor area of the neighborhood, and they were handing out food and cheese and stuff for the people who didn't have enough to eat. And so the lady got up to the counter, and she got her food and she got her cheese, and she started walking away. With all this stuff, and all of a sudden some guy runs up to her and grabs her cheese and starts running away, and she just got so mad. She goes, "That's not your cheese! That's not your cheese!"
He was a man who loved to have fun.
Whenever we had like talent shows or anything at church or any activities, he was always up there doing the lip syncs, and he's just a fun dad to have around and a lot of fun in our home.
He also knew when to be serious.
I tried to have a mix between goofing off and having fun and taking care of responsibilities. I know one thing my wife will say is when we were dating, I would say hi to her on the way down to the library and goodbye to her on the way home from the library.
The man he became began here in Albany, California. The year was 1948, and on December 6th, Harvey was born to David K. Hulme and Barbara Jean Fitzgerald. Harvey Hulme was the second of their 4 kids. He came into this world during a tumultuous time for America. President Harry Truman signed the Marshall Plan, giving economic aid to war-torn European countries, while Glenn Taylor, a senator from Idaho, was arrested in Birmingham for trying to enter a meeting through a door marked for Negroes. Van der Waals, a Nazi collaborator, was sentenced to death. Baseball legend Babe Ruth died, and the first of its kind Polaroid camera sold for $90. The world was becoming more diverse, and Harvey grew up in the heart of American liberalism in the shadows of the Bay Bridge just outside of Berkeley.
I was right in the middle of it. I don't know if you remember the free speech movement, Mario Savio and all that stuff. That was right downtown Berkeley, and my parents were always afraid. And that was the Beatles, came out in '64. We went to see them when they were in San Francisco. We tried to see them anyway.
Harvey's love of music led to him winning an award for being one of the best alto saxophone players in his elementary school's band.
Well, I was in a jazz band. That was a lot of fun. We had a really good band leader. We actually went to Reno a few times in competitions, and kind of took first in our class. And that was a lot of great experience.
It's one of many experiences he loves sharing with his grandchildren, including telling them how he got a prominent scar on his chin.
I don't know if you can see that, but that was when I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. My older brother, we'd go up to the elementary school and to fly kites, and I always became his servant. So I really got tired of running after his kites that would fall, and then I'd have to run and get them going again. And so what we ended up doing is one day I just got tired of that, so what I did is I put my cowboy boots on, which were way too big for me. Put my cowboy boots on and put my handcuffs on too. And I handcuffed myself behind my back, actually. So I was handcuffed behind my back, and I started walking up the hill, and guess what happened? I tripped. So I tripped in my big cowboy boots, and of course my hands were behind my back, and guess what I fell on? Fell right on my chin. Okay, ready, go! Ah!
Just give one to her, Kyle.
I'm gonna get you. Brody! Ah, I almost got you. Okay, look out for Savannah.
Ben, he got it.
Hey Josh, are you still in? You out? You're out now.
Harvey was no stranger to hard work, learning young what it took to be successful.
I had a paper out with the Berkeley Daily Gazette. I delivered the Berkeley Daily Gazette to 72 people every day, well, Monday through Saturday, every afternoon. So that kept me really, really busy. And then
What'd you get paid for that?
I made about $20 a month. So my job as a checker at Co-op grocery store in Berkeley, right there in all the hippies, and I earned $1.65 an hour. That was a lot of money.
It wasn't the love of money, but a love for working hard that this dad tried to teach his 6 children.
He didn't let us take the easy way out of begging out of chores on a Saturday.
Taught me how to work hard. He taught me how to balance a checkbook. That's something I had some problems with, and him being a CPA, he helped me with that. But he just taught me how to work hard. We always had chores we had to do around the home. We always, we worked, you know, every Saturday we'd be out in the front yard washing our cars. He'd have us all get out there. He taught us how to take care of our things. We'd get out there, wash our cars, make sure we got our oil changes, you know, every 3 months like we're supposed to. Just how to take care of things and be responsible and how to work hard, because that's how he lived his life.
Harvey was his freshman class president. He was recognized as one of the school's best young athletes after setting a new school record in the shuttle run, which earned him a pair of gold trunks.
You guys don't think those are in style right now? Well, they were really in style about, what, 50 years ago? So about 50 years ago. So but what it was, in my 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, we had like a competition where they would rank us at the end of the year in our physical education class and on our PE class. And like the beginners got the red, and then the others got the white, and the most advanced got the blue, and then the best athlete in the school earned their gold trunk.
He had his Clayton Valley Athletic Club blue and white gym bag, and he'd go to the gym every morning before work and do his aerobics classes or whatever. But that's something I mean, up until a few years ago when he got cancer, he was at the gym 5 days a week in the morning before work. That was something that was important to him, and I always remember seeing that blue and white gym bag.
Another thing that was important to him was scouts. He earned the highest scouting honor, his Eagle, by the time he was 16.
One of my favorite memories of my dad was when I was not quite 12 years old. I was an early birthday in the year, and all my friends were going to scout camp. So my dad ended up going to scout camp for the week, and it wasn't until later that I realized he went up so that he'd be able to bring me up, you know, because I was underage, and so he could support it that way. And I have a couple of pictures of that time. It's a great memory always to think, hey, my dad gave up his time so I could be part of the group.
In the fall of 1967, Harvey moved to Provo, Utah to attend Brigham Young University.
My mother's from Camas, so we would go up to Camas every summer, and one year they lined up a trip to go to BYU. And that was so much nicer than Cal Berkeley, you know, as far as just beautiful campus, beautiful people. Nobody had beards, long hair. And I said, this is where I need to be.
But halfway around the world, the Vietnam War was raging, and many young men like Harvey were being drafted. Instead of going to war, Harvey entered the Language Training Center in June of 1968 as a Mormon missionary bound for Chile.
I was in Chile from 68 to 70. So I was 6'3" and stood out a lot. So I was yelled at as a CIA, say-e-ah, everywhere. And so we had to try to downplay that, of course, but it was hard to have a street meeting or an exposition because these radicals would come up and start discussions, and we just have to fold up and walk away.
It was here in southern Chile that as a young missionary, Harvey became a branch president.
I think the biggest change was when you converted a family with little children. With little children, you could see a husband's life change and the guidance they had. And I really think that was a lesson for me. And when I got back from my mission, I knew what kind of family I wanted, what kind of wife I wanted.
In the fall of 1970, this returned missionary began his studies once again at BYU, where his roommate just happened to have a sister who was roommates with a Marilyn Matson.
She was beautiful.
From the first time I think I ever really saw him, I had rollers in my hair.
The first time I laid eyes on her, she had her hair up in curlers, and I came down to offer her a ride, and she turned me down.
And I didn't know he was coming over, and that's when he wore the big fat rollers. And he came, and I had those in my hair, and I didn't need the ride after all, so I had to say, oh, thank you for coming over, but I don't need a ride, so it was kind of awkward.
Anyway, we played cat and mouse a little bit, but eventually we hooked up, and she became my girlfriend. And
well, I thought it was very cool. I like that. He did have a yellow car, a Camaro, which seemed kind of racy. And I'm a pretty conservative person, and it was from California, you know. But it was fun. It made it kind of really exciting with him. I liked him from the beginning.
She was just a very compassionate person, very loving, and just very caring person. And that's what I was looking for. But I didn't want to rush into it.
They dated for 9 months, marrying in the Oakland, California LDS Temple on June 11, 1971. They became overnight janitors at Mervyn's while they awaited the arrival of their first baby, Suzanne, in April of 1972.
I had a dad that I know that loved me.
All of a sudden you take on a lot of responsibility. And that's why I studied extra hard. Had to take care of that family.
My dad showed his love through that way, is setting you up for success, setting you up so what you wanted to accomplish could be done. You know, an example is that car. So I could go to college and not have to have a full-time job, still supporting my new family. You know, he made sure things were in order, or supported me to get those in order so I could accomplish my hopes and dreams.
He was very dependable. I felt like he was, you know, if he said he'd do it, he'd do it. He's very organized, dependable, and I felt like he just took care of us. If we needed something, I remember going back to school. He made sure we had every pen, paper binder that we needed. We had the right chair for the computer desk. He loaded up our cart with groceries. He just took care of us. And just knew that he would always take care of us. He's very organized and very scheduled, and I mean, our home had order. We knew, I think we all knew our responsibilities. We all knew what was expected of us.
Before we moved to this house about a year ago, our doorbell broke, and so we replaced it, and it was with one I really liked. It was the Winchester chimes, which I just really like that for some reason. We went over to, Harvey said, let's go to Lowe's. So he didn't tell me why. We went over and he said, okay, let's go look at their doorbells. So our doorbell here is perfectly good, but he knew I loved the Winchester chimes. It was just so thoughtful. He's very thoughtful, but that just was a little thing that I would never have thought of, you know? It's not needed. And so that's something I'll remember for a long time.
As these young newlyweds began expanding their family, Harvey decided to switch his future plans from becoming a dentist to being a certified public accountant, just like his father. And in September of 1975, his first son, Benjamin, was born.
One of the things I loved about my dad growing up is whenever we'd get involved with any kind of sports activity or extracurricular activity, he really supported us. He'd want us to have the right equipment or clothing for the job. You know, he'd be there to help you with any practice or training, and then he'd support you in your events also. And so I love that about my dad, is he wanted you to be prepared for what you were doing. And so he'd take part in that preparation by, hey, you know, doing this in the backyard with you, or letting you know what to expect that first practice or tryout or something like that. And so I appreciated that. I went prepared to things I was interested in, and he always supported that.
A support that also included always keeping a roof over their heads. In 1975, Harvey bought his family their first home in California for $36,000. 2 years later, in February 1977, Shauna joined their growing family.
You can see when the Spirit's close with him, and you know when things are important to him, and the Spirit is close to him. And it often, when we're having family gatherings or stuff and he's talking, you can see the emotion, and that's something I love about my dad, is seeing the emotion in him and seeing that the Spirit is close to him.
In December of '79, Angela was born.
When I was a little bit older, and we come home for Christmas, and I was pregnant with my second boy. So just a young family, just out of college, new home, just poor, you know, just making ends meet. And the girls were going to go shopping that day, and so he had slipped me maybe $100 or something, which was so sweet. You know, he didn't have to do that, and I was really appreciative, but it was still about an hour before he left, and he just kept coming back to me and giving me another 20 and then 2 more 20s, and it was so sweet. And then he'd leave and kept coming, and I had a few $100s by the time we left, and he just, I think, he saw his daughter and wanted to keep taking care of me, you know, and just his sweetheart, and wanting to make sure I still had what I needed and things to enjoy too.
Jonathan came in May of 1982, right before his father became the bishop of their ward, followed by their youngest, Diana, in August of 1985.
Back when I was 16 and I was learning to drive, and they had bought me a car, and it was a stick shift, so he had to teach me how to drive it. And we went up to this big parking lot, just him and I, and we drove around, and I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get the, shifting and everything. And I was getting so frustrated to the point that I just started crying, and I said, I don't want to do this. I don't even want to drive a car. I don't care. I would rather just not have a car. I'd rather just not drive. And he was very patient with me and very, very loving and very much calmed me down and said, Diana, you will thank me later. Just calm down. Let's try this again.
As a CPA in my practice later, I had over 500 clients, and so many of them just didn't understand why I had 6 kids. Probably 80% of my clients were non-members, so 20% understood, but so many just didn't understand. Why are you having so many kids? How do you do it? How do you pay your tithing? And I just tell them, you're blessed. You just do what you have to do.
He's a man who bought them all Honda Civics because, of course, it was the most sensible car.
I appreciated his research and finding that out and then wanting us to be prepared for our future so we don't have to worry about that.
He supported them in all of their endeavors.
He's a CPA and he has tax season, and I played basketball, and basketball games are during tax time, and he'd always make it to my games. Even if I just saw him come into the stands and then leave, I didn't always get to talk to him, but he was always there. And I knew that he took that time. That it was important to him to take that time out of his busy schedule, because often we wouldn't see him for breakfast or until after we went to bed at night, but I knew he came to my basketball games, and that was 20 plus years ago, but that's a memory that I've always remembered, and that's the way I knew he loved me, and what I was doing was important to him.
He set the example.
He lived what he believed, and he did what he was asked to do without complaining.
He was an accountant.
The trick obviously is just keep your center finger and find that, see the number 5 there just has a little, it's usually a little dot. A little dot, so you just find your dot there, and then you just find your center and just practice on making mistakes.
A husband.
I know one thing my mom mentioned to me, and this was a long time ago, is he never forgot an anniversary, a birthday, anything like that. He'd always bring her roses on her anniversary, and as a kid it was neat to see your father show their love to your mom that way and see them bring the flowers.
He just made me feel like he really liked me. He liked to tease and be playful, and I really responded to that. Just that I was the one that he wanted to tease and be with.
A father.
I feel so blessed. I do feel secure.
Just love him and grateful for how well he took care of us. And I know when he'd come visit us at college, he'd take my car to get an oil change and give me money to get this fixed if I mentioned anything. He made sure we had everything we needed, and just took care of us. And he was a wonderful father, an example to me of what I wanted in a husband and a father for my children.
He was a faithful member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
I want them to know it takes a lot of work to do the right thing. So don't give up. And by that I mean don't cut short the things you know you should be doing, living the gospel, and they know what those things are, and they know what they need to give up, and they know what sacrifices they need to make. They just need to do that.
And he was a man who loved to laugh.
So it's on XERB, see how's it go? XERB, Hollywood, California, baby, you're gonna love you to death. This is the Wolfman Jack. Gonna knock you on the floor, up against the wall, outside on the sidewalk. So anyway, so he'd go on and on with stuff like that, and those are 2 of my favorite jokes.